Paris trembled. That's not a metaphor. Within seconds after Park Jimin's first step into the DIOR Fashion Show at Paris Fashion Week, the fashion world jolted, social media exploded, and fans, both those present and watching through their phone screens, couldn't hold back their hysteria. Jimin's appearance at the prestigious event wasn't just surprising, it strategically shifted the global celebrity power map in fashion. What really happened behind this quiet yet seismic arrival? There was no prior announcement.
No teaser.
No signs that Park Jimin, the main vocalist of BTS, known for his hypnotic dance technique and refined fashion sense, would appear as a special guest at DIOR's main show. And that's exactly what made his presence the gravitational center of the night. One urgent question hung in the air. Is this the beginning of a new phase in Jimin's international fashion career? Photographers who initially aimed for traditional names like Robert Pattinson and Naomi Campbell suddenly shifted all their attention to one figure in a black satin-accented suit and unbuttoned white shirt: Jimin. A visual long familiar in Asia's entertainment industry, now transformed into the most sought-after face in the heart of the global fashion capital. Without much talk, without a single hybe staff member by his side, he stepped into DIOR's VIP lounge with such grace that time itself seemed to pause. DIOR isn't unfamiliar territory for Jimin. Previously, he was announced as a global brand ambassador, a rare recognition given only to a few figures. But this fashion show marked an escalation, from being the face of a visual campaign to becoming an active force in DIOR's artistic narrative. Industry sources mentioned that Jimin's presence wasn't merely as an honorary guest, but also part of an exclusive capsule moment that will be released in an editorial visual format in the coming quarter. The emotion inside the venue was nearly uncontrollable. Rows of elite guests and leading fashion journalists lost their composure as cameras started pointing in one direction. Outside, thousands of ARMY, the name for BTS fans, had crowded the area since morning, even though there were no signs that any BTS member would appear. So when Jimin finally showed up, against the backdrop of French classical architecture and DIOR's glass walls reflecting flashes from every angle, screams and joyful tears erupted from the crowd. In a world used to surprises, this was a surprise within a surprise. A Vogue editor present at the venue summed it up in one sharp sentence: Jimin didn't come to appear. He came to redefine how celebrity and fashion interact. This wasn't just a compliment. In less than 2 hours, international media began compiling emergency articles containing one big question: is Jimin Asia's biggest fashion icon right now? This moment was amplified by the fact that Jimin didn't walk the runway.
He didn't need to.
In a fashion world increasingly emphasizing immersive experience and personal narrative, the presence of an icon can be more captivating than rigid catwalk steps. And Jimin proved that his position in the fashion world is not just as a pretty face, but as a subject studied, analyzed, and spotlighted from every angle. Within minutes of his appearance, social media exploded. Hashtags like #JiminAtDior, #ParkJiminParis, and #DIORShowLegend dominated global trends. TikTok flooded with reaction videos showing tears, screams, even spontaneous hugs between fans outside the venue. A 12-second clip of Jimin waving from behind DIOR's curtain was viewed over 10 million times in just 2 hours. That viral effect wasn't built, it erupted. But it wasn't just fans who were amazed. Industry analysts and senior fashion journalists expressed admiration for how Jimin, still active as a musician and having recently released a solo project, was able to control the visual narrative at an event filled with industry giants. This isn't just a celebrity attending a fashion show. This is a symbol of Asia's power in defining global contemporary aesthetics, said an observer from Business of Fashion. And if we look deeper, this isn't just about Jimin or DIOR. This is a depiction of the transformation of modern celebrity. In the past, celebrity attendance at fashion events was often seen as part of mutual promotion. Today, with figures like Jimin, their presence shapes the brand's narrative itself. When Jimin entered the DIOR venue that night, he wasn't just wearing Dior. He was Dior, a living representation of sensitive luxury, quiet strength, and undeniable magnetism. Dior has yet to issue an official statement on further cooperation details, but many speculate that this is the beginning of a major cinematic campaign involving visual storytelling through short videos and international photo editorials. Internal sources stated that Jimin has already undergone a series of closed-door shoots in Paris and Seoul with Dior's main creative team, indicating that Jimin's role is now not just an extension of marketing but a part of the creative engine itself. What's more thrilling? One rumor suggests that Jimin will be the only Asian celebrity featured in next year's special edition of the Dior book, a limited annual publication usually reserved for global icons like Marion Cotillard, Johnny Depp, or Charlize Theron. If confirmed, this means Jimin not only achieves a milestone for himself, but also marks a revolution in Asian representation in Europe's traditionally exclusive high fashion world. Amid all the commotion, one thing remains clear. Jimin didn't come just to fulfill an invitation. He came to set a standard. For many, this was the first time witnessing an Asian artist fuse the grace of classical ballet, the stage presence of a superstar, and cinematic visuals in a single fashion appearance. And the result? A new definition of modern masculinity and pop culture influence that knows no borders. Now, the world waits. Will this be followed by the launch of an exclusive line? Will Jimin fill the next Dior stage with a live performance, like some emerging collaborations between fashion and music in Paris and Milan? There's no answer yet. But one thing is proven. The fashion world can no longer ignore the artistic power of K-pop stars, especially when they bring more than just a handsome face. That night in Paris, Park Jimin didn't just show up. He owned it. And for the international fashion world, a new chapter officially began. Jimin's step onto the fashion stage wasn't just strategic, it was symbolic. In the grand scheme of BTS's journey as a group that's broken various boundaries in the global entertainment industry, each member's involvement in non-music fields has always been an important indicator of broader cultural shifts. And Jimin, with his precision in choosing projects, is now at the center of the next wave of change in the luxury fashion world. Interestingly, this event didn't stand alone. Jimin's appearance at the DIOR show didn't occur in a vacuum. It coincided with a fashion industry in transition, searching for new direction amid influencer noise, digital visual fatigue, and the public's desire for authenticity. Jimin's entry into this space, with unforced charisma, a clean yet strong image, and an unexplainable aura, became an almost perfect answer to the fashion industry's new needs. Fashion observers noted that Jimin has entered a space previously reached only by a handful of global celebrities, a cross-cultural icon who doesn't just represent a brand, but redefines how a brand wants to be seen by the global public. It's no surprise that Dior chose him as their main face this season. In business terms, this is called brand equity injection, a boost of brand value through exclusive association with a figure who has multi-demographic appeal. Industry players' responses were quick and decisive. The CEO of a competing fashion house even stated in a closed interview that Jimin's appearance at Dior has made all creative directors now adjust their plans for the next Paris Fashion Week. That's not a random comment. Within less than 24 hours of Jimin's appearance, LVMH, the parent company of Dior, experienced a small but significant stock increase, particularly in the Asian market sector. This is concrete proof that Jimin's presence wasn't just a visual moment, but one that directly impacted market value. Not only that, Jimin's appearance also changed the internal atmosphere of the fashion show itself. Several senior fashion guests admitted that the interaction between attendees and staff became more intense after Jimin's arrival. People became more curious, more engaged. It's like everyone realized they were witnessing part of history, said an editor from Elle seated in the second row. There's a magnetic aura he brings, not because he's a pop star, but because he carries integrity in every step he takes. And sure enough, shortly after the event ended, An exclusive leaked Backstage video showed a brief meeting between Jimin and Kim Jones, DIOR's artistic director. In the less than a minute clip, the two are seen laughing, speaking seriously, and exchanging design documents in a relaxed yet focused atmosphere. Many speculate that this is a sign that Jimin will not only appear in upcoming visual campaigns, but will also directly contribute to DIOR's capsule collection creative process. This speculation was reinforced by a report from WWD, Women's Wear Daily, stating that DIOR is preparing its first collaborative project with an Asian celebrity who will not only be the face of the campaign, but also co-design 1 or 2 fashion pieces in a limited collection. If confirmed, Jimin will become the first South Korean artist to reach such an exclusive design collaboration level with DIOR, a monumental achievement not only in his career, but in the history of Asia's interaction with European high fashion. The presence of Park Jimin at DIOR's fashion show during Paris Fashion Week not only shook the fashion world and entertainment industry, but also sparked a wave of discussion that quickly rippled across the global public spectrum. From fan forums, fashion media editorial rooms, to academic spaces studying the relationship between popular culture and global capitalism. Yet, amid all the noise of praise, analysis, and speculation flooding online platforms, one pressing question must now be asked collectively: is what we're witnessing truly reality? Or are we being presented with a fabrication so perfectly packaged to attract massive public attention? In a world increasingly controlled by digital narratives, the line between reality and social construction becomes more blurred. Was Jimin truly personally invited by Kim Jones? Or was his presence engineered within a larger promotional framework, designed by marketing teams and global communication agencies to test mass response potential? In this context, the information circulating, whether from TikTok, Twitter, or YouTube, needs to be deconstructed one by one. That let's examine. Some social media accounts shared videos showing Jimin entering the DIOR event location with high-quality visuals and cinematic-like angles. But shouldn't we ask, why were those cameras already set up even before Jimin arrived? Was this truly a spontaneous moment? Or was everything orchestrated, with professional photographers knowing exactly where and when to shoot? Furthermore, the narrative about Jimin's interaction with DIOR's creative director was delivered by sources whose identities were not explicitly mentioned. We need to ask, how accountable is this information? Isn't source clarity a primary requirement in professional journalism when validating an event? We also find that nearly all major fashion media immediately responded to the moment with uniform narratives. Vogue, WWD, Harper's Bazaar, and Elle all provided coverage in a very short span. Does this reflect Jimin's massive influence? Or is there a possibility that the content was part of a communication strategy prepared long in advance? These kinds of questions are not forms of cynicism, but crucial intellectual exercises amid the flood of often inaccurate information. In the post-truth era, we live in an environment where emotions, perceptions, and visual effects often outweigh empirical facts. It's only natural, then, to ask, is the hysteria we're witnessing an authentic public response, or the result of algorithms and content distribution systems that work relentlessly to shape our opinions? Beyond that, we must also evaluate our own roles as information consumers. Do we consciously distinguish between fact and interpretation? Or have we become part of a sensationalism reproduction machine, spreading unverified information just because its narrative feels compelling or satisfies our personal expectations? In this context, the ARMY's reaction, the global BTS fandom, becomes a fascinating phenomenon to study. They are a solid, tightly networked community with the power to elevate or dismantle a narrative in minutes. Yet, this extraordinary loyalty must also be balanced with critical awareness. We need to ask, is the support given all this time based on clear understanding, or has it entered the realm of celebrity cults untouchable by criticism? Returning to the Paris event, when we see Jimin seated in the front row, surrounded by photographers and influencers, wearing captivating DIOR attire, we are indeed tempted to believe this is a golden moment. the pinnacle of an artist's journey toward global recognition. But behind the glamour, we must also ask, who benefits from this event? Is this truly about artistic expression and cultural recognition, or are there economic and political mechanisms silently at play behind it? The fashion industry is not an empty space. It is a battleground of imagery, capital, and symbolic power. Dior, as part of the LVMH conglomerate, is a key player in the circulation of global cultural capital. Jimin's presence in this scheme, knowingly or not, has become part of a much larger mechanism than merely appearing on the runway. He, alongside his millions of followers, has become a strategic commodity in the contest for the Asian market and the global youth generation seeking identity through consumption. So how should we, as readers and viewers, respond? Do we accept all this information as a singular reality, or do we choose to be skeptical and analytical? In this space of reflection, we invite you to pause and consider. Is what you see truly a reflection of an authentic event, or merely a carefully curated narrative designed to create a certain effect? Do you feel emotionally involved due to a personal connection with Jimin, or because content distribution systems have directed you to feel that way? Have you compared the information you received with more independent sources? Or do you trust it outright because it came from a media outlet that looks official? Are you aware that viral content is not always synonymous with truth? In a world where the line between fact and fiction is increasingly blurry, being an intelligent information consumer is an ethical responsibility. We must be able to filter, test, and reflect on every piece of information that comes our way. We must ask, question, and if needed, risk discomfort in pursuit of clarity. Because only then can we truly understand what we're facing. Is this merely a visual drama, or the seeds of true global cultural transformation? We must also remember that the information presented in this article, including fan testimony, TikTok videos, Twitter posts, and major media reviews, still lies within the realm of interpretation. The validity of the data still requires further clarification and verification. That means this article is not the end of information, but the beginning of a discussion. We do not claim to possess the absolute truth. Instead, we open space for questions, dialogue, and healthy critique. And perhaps that is what's most needed today, not just new information, but a new way of reading information. In the case of Jimin at Dior, we can choose to be swept away by euphoria, or we can take one step back and ask a no less important question. Who is telling the story, and who is being shaped by it? Ultimately, we return this question to you, the reader. Amid the endless wave of visuals, the flood of praise and spotlight, do you truly believe this is a fully organic, real event? Or are you beginning to see a pattern too perfect to be considered coincidence? We provide no answers. We invite you to find them yourself. Because in a world increasingly controlled by narratives, the only true freedom is the ability to think independently. And if Jimin's appearance at the Dior event is part of a fabrication, then it is a brilliantly intelligent one. But if this is an authentic moment, then it is one that will be remembered as a turning point for Asian cultural power in global fashion history. Please reflect, please think, and please ask, what kind of truth are we really seeking? We reaffirm that the information contained in this article originates from various popular media and public observations widely spread across digital space. However, we do not claim that all of it has been fully verified. Therefore, we urge all readers to remain critical, skeptical, and open to various possibilities, both in terms of fact and fabrication. Do not treat information as dogma. Treat it as material for discussion. Because here lies the strength of an intelligent society, not in how fast we receive information, but in how deeply we can understand it. Thank you. However, reflection does not stop at the surface level. After all the commotion caused by Jimin's presence on the Dior stage, we need to raise a more fundamental, more philosophical, and also more urgent question. Does this phenomenon reflect true cultural transformation, or merely a mirror of the entertainment industry and commercialism that has found its most sophisticated manipulative form behind every camera recording, every journalist covering, and every fan cheering online? Exists a system working simultaneously, producing reality, shaping perception, and creating emotional needs. Jimin, in this case, is not merely an artist attending a fashion show. He becomes the center of a collective narrative touching dimensions of aspiration, representation, and public expectations toward global celebrities. But amid the wave of worldwide public support and euphoria, let us ask, who truly controls this narrative? Does Jimin fully possess agency in this public construction? Or has he become part of a system that dictates how he should appear, speak, and act before the world? This question is not intended to doubt Jimin's authenticity as an individual, but more about the mechanism working behind the scenes. We must be able to distinguish between the individual and the representation of the individual within the system of cultural capitalism. Jimin, in this context, is a representation of overlapping economic, cultural, and visual values. So, how aware is the public of this position? We need to re-examine the origins of the information we consume. Much content that goes viral on TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube is repetitive and reproductive. The same video re-uploaded with the same narrative, then used as a basis for belief by millions of viewers as though its truth were irrefutable. Are we building understanding or merely reinforcing assumptions? In a society flooded by imagery, post-truth is no longer just an academic concept, but a daily reality. We no longer live in an era where truth is what happens, but what appears to happen. Thus arises another important question. Are we witnessing facts or visual fabrications subtly constructed to look natural?